Hello, today we're going to learn how to make materials with textures inside cycles. So the first thing we want to make sure is that we are in cycles. If we're in Blender Render, we'll have different menus and stuff, and we don't want that. So I'll start off by deleting everything and adding a plane, which we'll be using to work on the material. And we want to separate the views, so let's just move this up and make this a node editor, okay? And we want to make sure this is on rendered so we see how it's affecting it. So now we want to go into the materials tab, add new, and this should appear. If this does not appear, make sure you create a material, and if it still doesn't appear, make sure you're under node and object. So what we want to, well, first of all, a material output is probably the most important node, and it's because everything goes into it. And the diffuse is a shader which pretty much gives color information. So let's say we want to make a red object, just make it red, and there we go. We can also make it blue, green, yellow, whatever. However, I did say we were going to use textures, but we will be using this diffuse. So what we'll be doing is replacing the color of the diffuse, the solid color, with the color of a texture. So to do that, we're going to press Shift A to open the Add menu. And we want a texture coordinate, which is right here, image texture, sorry. And we want to open up a texture. I downloaded my textures from textures.com. It's free and there's no copyright and things like that, which is awesome. And the textures are also seamless, which means you can tile them up without any problems. So I'm going to open it up. I saved it in my desktop, and it's a sandy looking texture. So I'm going to open it up, and we're going to put the color and the color output. So as you can see, we did replace the color, but a texture is not appearing, and that's because we can't tell the image texture the coordinates, if that makes any sense. So we're going to, so this vector, this input needs some info to be, needs to take some info. So to do that, we need a texture coordinate to tell where the texture is. So let's look for texture coordinate, and let's plug this in. And as you can see, the texture appeared. So let's say we want to change the location or the scale or something like that of our texture. It's as easy as adding a mapping node in the middle of these two. So we're going to change the scale in this case to 2 in each axis, and as you can see, there's more details right now from the same texture, which is pretty cool. So you probably know that materials in the real life are not only made of colors. There are also other components like glossy, which we're going to use in this video. So right now, because of the principal shader, you might want to only use that, which is this shader over here, and it's pretty much an all-in-one shader. However, I'm not going to go into it in this video because it's a bit more complicated. It might look a bit scary, but once you get a grasp of it, it's pretty cool. So I have a video of it if you want to check it out. However, in this tutorial, we're going to use just another node for each shader. So I'm going to look for glossy. We're going to put this up. And to use two shaders at once, we need a mix shader to combine those two. So let's get a mix shader and put it in there. And we want to make sure the glossy is on top. So we have this bar over here, which is the factor. So we can change the factor to make it more glossy or less glossy. However, it honestly looks like crap right now, but we'll change that in a minute. Before, we want to add bumpiness, which makes it quite more realistic. So normally you would want to add another image texture with a texture you generated from program, which is pretty much black and white, and it tells where it has to be bumpy. So we can cheat this and we can just use the original texture. So let's just get the color and add it to the displacement. So as you can see, there's already a big change. We can change this, how it affects this with a MixRGB. So we're going to go into color, MixRGB, and plug that in. And what we're going to do is move this down, and we want a multiply. So changing the factor, we can change how bumpy it is. So normally, well, in this texture you can't really tell the difference, especially from the video, I'm guessing. But if you have, for example, like a brick texture, or just something with cracks, you'll tell quite well. So I'm just going to leave the factor at something between 0.3 and 0.4. And what I'm going to do now is change how the glossiness affects the material. So what we need to do is change the roughness of our glossy to tell where the glossy has to affect. So to do that, we need to get the color output and add it into the roughness, and it's as easy as that. So now we want to change a bit the factor, because sand is not quite glossy, and make sure it's towards 1 instead of 0. So you might want, for some reason, to make red sand or blue sand or something like that. So to do that, it's quite easy. We're going to use another diffuse node, diffuse shader, and we're going to just change the color to whatever we want. Let's say we want it to be blue. We want blue sand because it's from a planet from somewhere else. So we want another mix shader. So let's plug this in, and as you can see, it looks pretty cool. So you might first of all want to change this to non-color, just to take away those tints, which I don't really like. And let's make this bumpier. So to actually be able to see this better, we want a little bit of lighting. So let's just make a sky. So change the background to color to a sky texture. So that still doesn't really do much. So what we're going to do is just add a light. So a sun should do fine for this. So let's go back into rendered view. Let's select this, and that's a bit too powerful, but you can still see the cracks quite well right now, actually. So you can change this factor, and as you can see now, it's more smooth. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. If you have any questions or any doubts, make sure to leave a comment, and I'll try to make a tutorial regarding that. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one. Bye.